Okay, welcome everyone. This is the food-based cleansing webinar. I'm Katy Wallace. I'm a naturopathic doctor in Madison, Wisconsin. And before we begin, I'd like to say this talk is for health education reasons only. If you'd like to see a recording of the talk, I will make that available online. Here is my website where you can view all my past recordings, and I'll probably update this recording to the website in a couple of weeks. I'm giving this talk today in coordination with the Willie Street Co-op, and a couple of things that I do there besides offering these free monthly talks are I offer one-on-one private sessions for just $45. So if you're a co-op member and you're interested in that, you can reach out to me. And I do have an appointment slot available next Wednesday, September 6th. Otherwise, the next time I'm booking is for October. Next month's talk will be on natural allergy and histamine relief. That'll be on Wednesday, September 13th at noon. And I'm also, something you might be particularly interested in related to the topic today is that I teach an annual workshop called the Body Tune-Up Workshop, where I take a group of people through a full food-based cleanse for 6 weeks. So you get the whole plan, you get individualized support from me, and you get the accountability of the group, which is really nice. And I do have some scholarships available. I have 2 full scholarships available and some partial scholarships, and you can apply for those through my website. And the deadline for that is coming up. In case you're interested, I'd love to have any of you join me. Okay, today what we're talking about is what is cleansing? What is food-based cleansing? What are the best foods to eat if you want to do some sort of therapeutic upgrade with your diet? And then we'll talk specifically about my food-based cleansing program, which I've called the Body Tune-Up. So we'll talk about cleansing for the digestive system, cleansing for the gut biome or a critter or parasite cleanse, cleansing for the kidneys, and then cleansing for the liver. And all of these cleanses are sort of set up in this specific order for specific reasons to get the best results. This is the book I wrote on the topic, so you can get more information about what I'm talking about today by checking out my book. I just published it last year. I've been taking people through this food-based cleanse for over 16 years. And I finally wrote it up in a book, which you can get at the local library, or you can get it from my website, or you can get copies at a Room of One's Own or on Amazon. So before we begin, I want to start with the basic definition of health, because if we're talking about doing a food-based cleanse, obviously we need to think about what are our overall goals. So I'm coming from a place where I'm not just talking about health being the absence of disease, we're really talking about trying to optimize your energy, optimize someone's digestion and absorption, optimize the gut biome, optimize their mental and emotional health, and experiencing ideal physiological function. So being able to do the things you want to do and having healthy body systems. And contrary to some medical opinions on the matter, I think what you eat is really important. While today's modern diet no longer creates any huge nutrient deficiencies like people experienced in the past, the problem with today's modern diet is that there's an overabundance of calories and nutrients, really. Yes, small micro deficiencies still happen and can be a big deal for individuals, but overall, the big issue is that people are consuming too much, and this sets up a lot of inflammation and disease and disorder in the body. And so cleansing is a great anecdote to this. It's something people can incorporate regularly into their lifestyle. So the definition of cleansing is to help rid the body of any stored toxins. So that includes different chemical toxins or metals that we might pick up, but also can extend to toxins created by different organisms or microbes within our body system. It can also include eliminating extra fecal matter that can build up in the digestive system or extra metabolic waste happening at a cellular level. But we don't just want to cleanse for the sake of cleansing. I think sometimes people really lose sight of the true benefits or true intention of cleansing by overdoing it. So when you undertake a food-based cleanse, it's important to keep these 4 points in mind. You want to have it designed to support healthy hormone balance, healthy blood sugar control, healthy endocrine system, and healthy nervous system. You want to, any cleanse might come with maybe some minor detoxification symptoms, perhaps. But overall, the intent is to experience an improvement in your well-being, and to alleviate chronic pain and chronic problems. Maybe they will go into remission and go away, or maybe they will at least become a lot less severe if you're taking the right approach. A good food-based cleanse will also help support your immune system. And so the foods will be chosen very carefully to be ones that are compatible, as well as healthy digestion. You should still experience improvements in digestion, or maintain adequate digestion throughout the process. Otherwise, you probably need to make some tweaks to the process. So cleansing's been around a while. It's not anything new. Many traditional and religious cultures actually include periods of fasting. And the historical reasons for this would be to increase a spiritual connection, to renew people's energy, or to increase empathy for those who have less than us. Other reasons for cleansing, more modern reasons perhaps, are to overcome emotional attachments to food. I would say that is a very common reason. Like, people have a sugar addiction, and a cleanse can be very helpful to sort of breaking out of that. And then I would say the other most popular reason would be that a person is just feeling stuck. They're feeling stuck either physically or mentally, and know that they need to make some kind of shift. And a food-based cleanse can be really powerful for that. In fact, like I said, I've been doing this with people for over 16 years. And I have changed a lot. As you can imagine, any practitioner, any professional in a field, what they're doing is going to change over time as new information and new experiences occur. But this is something that I learned from one of my mentors early on, and I've kept with sharing this knowledge just because it is so powerful at transforming people from where they are to where they want to be. So even though I have changed the process of the cleanse and updated it over time, I've really stuck with the idea of cleansing, even though cleansing can still be somewhat controversial or trendy or whatever. There could be reasons to say, we don't need to do that anymore. No, I think really the number of just amazing stories I've witnessed just helping people through this process over the years is why I keep doing it. Other reasons include, wanting to help naturally purify the body, or especially in fall, transition between seasons. A food-based cleanse can really help reduce the stress on the body, and it can help with mental awareness. I'll never forget the very first time I taught the cleanse in this format, the body tune-up format. I had a lawyer in the group, and she came back after the first meeting, because we meet over a period of 6 weeks. We meet 5 times. And so in the second meeting, she came and she had already started the digestive cleanse, and she said, yeah, I'm feeling okay, eating, all the right things. And for the first time, I feel like when people are in my office, like, I really hear what they're saying. I just thought that was kind of funny coming from a lawyer. But it's very true. I think there are a few tools available to us. Mindfulness tools are another one. But food-based cleansing is one of those tools that really has a large capacity to create a positive shift. The scientific evidence on cleansing and fasting is overall concludes that it's very helpful for the immune system. It helps the immune system to be stronger. It helps create healthy fluctuations in metabolism, which result in people living longer and better weight management, as well as improvements in energy levels. So there's three main areas that are important to pay attention to in terms of the physiology of a cleanse. And one of the big areas is how to detoxify, and how does the body naturally detoxify, and how can we promote natural detoxification? So when we're talking about detoxification, we're mostly talking about getting rid of chemical toxins that are bad. So these can come in the form of a lot of different things, air pollution, heavy metals that are in our cookware, or our dental fillings, or chemical pesticides that we are exposed to by living in a community, through agricultural exposure on our food. There's plastic on our food. There's plastic, everywhere, really. In the water now, there's microplastic. As well as there's toxins from different microbes that get established, or different molds and things in our environment. And so our bodies have a natural process to help eliminate toxins. But for many of us, our bodies can get overwhelmed. When there's too many toxins and the natural process of detoxification is not keeping up, then basically the toxins accumulate, and then we can get a lot of symptoms from having too many toxins. And the medical research shows that these are the most common list of issues for diseases that develop from too much toxins. So obesity, heart disease or cardiovascular illness, neurological and cognitive problems or cognitive decline, immune system dysfunction like cancer and autoimmunity, decreasing tolerance for things like different chemicals or even different foods happening over time, and fertility and reproductive concerns, or even concerns for our children and their development, are increasing because of increasing toxins. So like I said, our bodies have a natural way of eliminating toxins so that we don't store too many of them. And this happens in 3 steps or 3 phases. The first phase or step is called activation. Activation is where the body identifies that there's a chemical, and it's going to activate it. It's going to change it into something so that it can take it to the next step. The next step being neutralization, which is where the body takes this slightly altered chemical that it made, and it makes it into a water-soluble chemical for the third step or the third phase to happen, which is elimination. You can guess what that means. That means the toxin is now in a form where it can be moved out of the body. So it's moved out through a bowel movement, or moved out through urine or sweat. And that's the third step. So when you're thinking about a food-based cleanse, or maybe just supporting natural detoxification always in your body, you want to think about having some foundational foods available every day, if possible, to support this process. So activation, which is where you take the toxin, and in the liver, it's converted into the next more usable step for the body, is especially supported by cruciferous vegetables. So that would be anything in the broccoli family. So that's like broccoli, cauliflower, kale, radishes. I'm sure you guys can think of a lot of the foods in that family. And by the way, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat, and I will address them at the end. After activation, we have neutralization. So we've made, like I said, you make the chemical into something water soluble. To drive this pathway, you've got to have adequate protein. So protein from meats is, especially red meat, is optimal, or from fish or seafood. Those are going to be optimal. And glutathione is also very helpful. This is an antioxidant that we make in the liver, and it can be, you can support glutathione production by eating foods high in selenium, and taking in foods high in protein. There's actually a number of things you can do to support glutathione. We can talk about that at the end if people are curious. And then sulfur. So sulfur is very rich in specific foods like onions and garlic and things like Epsom salt. So taking like an Epsom salt bath with like 3 cups of Epsom salts in a bath regularly. These are all good ways to make sulfur more accessible to help support phase 2. And I would say most people need the most support around step 2 and step 3. Most people are pretty good at step 1. In fact, most of the people who have issues and like need detoxification support, or like their lifestyle and their diet's kind of out of balance, they've got enough phase 1 support and they need more phase 2 and phase 3 support. And I'll explain more about that in a minute. For elimination, that, like I said, means you're just getting things out of the body. So you need to have healthy, regular bowel movements. Lots of good fat and lots of good salt is really critical for regular bowel movements, as well as a lot of good bacteria, because the stool is made by good bacteria. So if you don't have enough good bacteria, you won't be as regular. Adequate source of magnesium is very important for good elimination, and of course plenty of water, because you're making these toxins water soluble, so you've got to be hydrated. So for men, that means about 4 quarts a day of water on average. For women, that means about 3 quarts of water a day. So like I was saying, most people have plenty of phase 1 support, but need a lot more phase 2 and phase 3 support. You may have actually experienced a sign of this if you've ever had a hangover, or you've ever gotten a headache from paint fumes. So things like alcohol, caffeine, different VOC chemicals, when they are in our bodies, they upregulate step 1, the first step. So your body recognizes that there's a toxin and it's going to change it, but then it's stuck and it doesn't move it out to step 2 and step 3. So that's why if you're someone, or you have a family member, for example, who really suffers from, getting a headache every time there's a bunch of fumes, that should be a red flag that this person needs more phase 2 support at that time. So toxins are one big thing you want to be thinking about when designing a cleanse, and you want to have all those things I just mentioned that support the 3 steps of detoxification in your food plan. So cruciferous vegetables, proteins, fats, salts, good bacteria, magnesium, sulfur, etc. The next big thing you want to think about is your metabolic health, because if your metabolic health is off, and by that I basically mean blood sugar control, then you're not going to get any better. You're not going to reach your goal in the cleanse. As we are all aging, we are all becoming more insulin resistant, which means that when we eat the same amount of carbohydrate, the amount of insulin hormone we make to get the carbohydrate into our cell increases. And this increasing amount of insulin, called insulin resistance, causes a lot of inflammation. So it'll cause swelling, it'll cause fatigue, it'll make someone hungry all the time and tired all the time. It'll cause chronic pain. It'll cause obesity. It'll throw off the thyroid gland. It'll create hormone problems for men and women. So you really want your food plan dialed in to make sure you're optimizing blood sugar control. The last thing you need to be thinking about when designing a cleanse, or the major thing, is immune system health. So the other way that people get sort of locked in to chronic pain or a chronic health problem is when they have a chronically active immune system. If the immune system is overactive, it's making these chemicals called pro-inflammatory cytokines, and those trigger constant inflammation in the body. And so you want the food program to be designed to not trigger more cytokine activity. And I'll talk about that when we get to talking about the nuts and bolts of the diet. So I recommend in the cleansing process that I use with people that they eat a lot of good protein. So like grass-fed bison would be an example of a good quality protein. When animals are grass-fed, they're very high in omega-3 because they're getting omega-3s from the grass. If the animals are raised in a factory farm situation or raised on a lot of corn and soy, which most of them are, they're going to be very high in omega-6 and be inflammatory. So you're going to need to eat proteins that are very omega-3 rich, meaning they're pastured or they're grass-fed, or you're eating wild fish or seafood. And you also want to eat a lot of vegetables. The role of the low starch vegetables, and an emphasis on low starch, so less carbohydrate, less sweet vegetables, is that they're going to feed the good bacteria. So, I have some of those pictured here: onions, carrots, celery, cucumbers. I mean, all of that is really good. And then you also want to have a lot of fat. Olive oil is a great example of a good fat to have on like a reset type of diet or a food-based cleansing diet. The fats are really critical. So oftentimes people need to do an about face in terms of how they approach fat, since most of us were raised or lived through the low fat craze of last century. So fat is very important for elimination, so for detoxing. It's also very important for carrying nutrients to the cells, and it's the most efficient fuel for the body. So it's very helpful on a cleanse. I have some examples pictured here. I already mentioned the olive oil. Virgin coconut oil would be another one. Duck fat, or even clarified butter or ghee can be a good fat for people to rely on. And during the cleanse, people need to eat more fats typically than they're used to, because you're going to tap into more of the fat burning ability of your body. And so eating more fats supports that process. And to the tune of probably eating a couple tablespoons at each meal. And the other reason for doing this is that if you're cutting out a number of foods that you're used to eating, you're gonna need to provide calories, enough calories for your body to still thrive. And so the fats are very important and therapeutic for that reason also. So you can't have a good cleanse without having enough fat. Also need to have the good quality proteins I already mentioned. Fish is probably my favorite for this because it's very easy and accessible for most people to digest, although obviously some people are allergic and therefore should not have it. You wouldn't want to eat any fruit, or maybe if you have a little fruit, it's just that, just a little bit, and picking only low glycemic fruits like berries if someone did do fruit. So an example, if I was working with someone and designing a cleanse for them, if they were very athletic and were going to continue their workouts throughout the cleanse and didn't want to become ketogenic in the beginning of the cleanse, which is usually something I encourage people to do, then I would say, well, why don't you have a little bit of fat, or I'm sorry, why don't you have a little bit of fruit, like some berries before the workout, to fuel your muscles. It's not necessary, but for some people that are very physically active, that can really help them with the cleanse. Otherwise, for most people, I say I would not do any fruit. And the reason for that is I'm trying to dial back the amount of insulin you're making to bring about the reduction in inflammation and improvement in your health that we're looking for. We're trying to normalize your hormones. We're trying to support your healthy thyroid gland. All these things help reduce inflammation in your gut. All of that is going to be addressed through reducing the carbohydrate and sugar consumption. So that's why we typically don't do fruits, even though they can be very cleansing. Juicing is another sort of typical cleansing food, and it is very supportive of sort of clearing metabolic waste. The problem with juicing is that people will often concentrate a lot of sugar in the juice, and then it's sort of backfiring on them because they're creating blood sugar problems or just making the same amount of insulin that they were making before they started in response to the sugar in the juice. So if you do juice, you should choose low sugar vegetables like celery and cucumbers and green things and ginger. Those usually work really well. If a person is very cold and they have very weak digestion, I typically will not suggest any juicing and would encourage them to do more cooking of foods and having more warm foods and foods with fiber. Going to be avoiding, this may be obvious at this point, but in case it isn't, the foods you want to be avoiding would, of course, be desserts and sugars, coffee. Usually people are weaning off of coffee. They're not drinking alcohol during the 6-week cleansing period. And they're not eating bread. They're not eating rice. They're not eating oatmeal, because all of those things are raising the insulin level in the body. And like I said, we're trying to improve metabolic health. And so you'll get the best results for reducing inflammation if you avoid all grains. There are some top allergens to avoid. And the reason for this mostly has to do with the molecular structure. When someone's body is under stress, they experience a thinning of their gut lining. And so the gut becomes more permeable. And as a result, the immune system becomes a lot more active in digestion. And this is a problem because when your immune system is heavily involved in digestion, you start reacting to foods. And these are the top foods people react to. Gluten, dairy, corn, and soy all have a very large molecular peptide structure. And when the peptide structure, which is just a fancy word for the protein structure of the food, is very large, it's just like a big target to your immune system to freak out. So those people will have a lot more symptoms based on eating those foods. So if you can pull back at least these six foods, then you see a lot of improvement. And sugar, I didn't mention, but it's listed here obviously because it prompts insulin production, which would work against someone's goal in a cleanse. And I like to use an analogy for the way I approach food in a cleanse called a bathtub analogy. So if you have a bathtub, you're filling it up with water, you can imagine that someone who's has a lot of health issues or a lot of inflammation, it's like the bathtub is overflowing, right? They've sort of lost control of inflammation, the ability to rebalance the body. If you just took out one food, just took out maybe 1 inch of water in the bathtub, that's not really going to make a very big difference to somebody who's experiencing an overflow of inflammation. That's why you need to sort of overhaul the whole thing. You need to take out multiple triggers, and then the water level will go down, 6 inches or a foot, and the person will go, oh, I actually can feel healthy. I actually can have control of my health. So it can be daunting, but it's absolutely very therapeutic. And if you have a good plan, you can do it. Another analogy that's similar is if you can imagine someone poking you with 100 fingers all day long, and then you take away 99 and you're only poked with 1 finger, you feel a lot better than someone who's poking you with 100 fingers. So people who are having inflammation from high insulin levels, and I would say that's most people with health issues, or people who are having food reactions, and that's a big majority of the people with health issues too, will feel a lot better when you make such a substantial change. And then the task becomes, okay, now I feel great. I feel great, Katy. I know I can eat proteins and vegetables and fats and feel amazing, but how do I live this way? So then you sort of have the practice of reintroducing things and experimenting and learning what foods are most supportive of your health, which ones can you get away with, and which ones can you really not, if you want to experience health or to reach a certain health goal that you have in mind. So the body tune-up is the process of food-based cleansing. It's a specific structure that I've set up and written my book about. And the foundation of it is this cleansing diet that I just described. So the diet is anti-inflammatory, right? Because it helps eliminate toxins, it helps reduce insulin, and it helps reduce immune system reactions to foods. It's also low lectin. Lectins are the chemical components of plant foods that once someone has inflammation in their gut, it tends to trigger a lot more reactions. So the high lectin foods tend to be plant foods, especially grains, nuts, seeds, things like that. So that's why those are eliminated in the beginning of the cleanse. And you want foods high in vegetables. Those provide fiber, they are very filling, and they help feed the good bacteria. The actual structure of the cleanse is broken down into 4 pieces. So the food program is very foundational, and it sort of shifts with each step. The first step is called the digestive cleanse, and it's 10 days long. The second cleanse is called a critter cleanse, or it's a parasite cleanse. So we're really focused on gut health and gut diversity, and that can be 2 to 3 weeks long. And then we go on to the deeper elimination and detox organs, the kidneys and the liver. So the kidney cleanse is just 4 days and the liver cleanse is 12. So the whole thing lasts 6 weeks. And you do it sequentially in order, basically because this whole time we're supporting the 3 steps of detoxification to end with the liver cleanse, where most of that detoxification is happening. And we're also laying groundwork for you to have eating habits and an eating plan that keeps insulin resistance to a minimum and keeps immune reactions to a minimum as well. So you can go about, whatever your goals and your lifestyle is going forward after the cleanse, having a good template for how to eat. So it's not really just about this cleanse, it's about what happens after the cleanse. The cleanse is just a tool to help reset you. What's really important is, where are you going long term? What changes are you making long term in your life? So the digestive cleanse is focused all on elimination. For those people that can tolerate it, we do psyllium husk and flaxseed. Some people have sensitive digestion and can't do those, and that's okay. But for people who can, those can help with elimination and help with detoxing. I like to use something called a binder, and this product on the right side of the screen, the GI Detox, is a capsule that includes binders in it. What binders do in the gut, they're very safe. Virtually anybody can use them, but they pull things to them or absorb things to them, and then you move them out in a bowel movement in your body. So it really helps to detoxify the body from different chemicals, different sensitivities, things that are just stored in the body. And when you are cleansing, all of your trillions of cells are going to send the metabolic waste to the gut. So that's why it's so very important to work on the digestive system foundationally. If you don't have a healthy digestive system, then your detoxification process is not going to work. The other couple pieces that sometimes help accelerate the benefits of the food-based cleanse are having a good probiotic, and this is one I developed here, the Body Tune-Up Multi-Strain Probiotic, and also Ion Gut Health, which is a product that helps feed good bacteria and helps diversify your gut biome naturally. A green drink can be a really helpful tool when you're on a cleanse. Some people don't like eating a lot of vegetables, and so a green drink can provide that role, or maybe you're traveling and you need something convenient. During a cleanse, even for people that love to eat a lot of vegetables, a green drink can be helpful for a couple of reasons. The first is that overall, the nutrition that you bring in has to be like a lot better than it was before you started if you want to see a net upgrade in your health, right? And so a green drink is one of those tools that really helps. It's just a green drink could be any drink that's green. So there are these green drink powders that you just add to water or another beverage and mix up and drink. Or you could make a green smoothie, or you could juice a green vegetable. So it can come in many different forms. But I like to recommend a green drink, especially during those times of the day when people might be vulnerable to cravings. So for a lot of people, that might be maybe in the afternoon or right before dinner. So that can be a really good time for a green drink, for example. So just a helpful tool. It's not necessary, but oftentimes makes a cleanse a lot more easy for someone. And then this is just a visual for all of the vegetables that are good to eat, with fat, of course. Making soups and making big trays of roasted vegetables is especially beneficial with a fall cleanse. Then once those 10 days are established, I usually have people on the strictest diet in the first 10 days and with a lot of focus on gut support that I just went over. Then we'll move on to the parasite cleanse. The parasite cleanse is really working on eliminating any bad microbes or parasites that might be in the gut and promoting beneficial ones. So for a couple of more weeks, we might make a couple tweaks to the food plan. Maybe in the first 10 days, the first couple days, people might maybe have a headache if they were giving up coffee or feel a little bit of sugar withdrawal if they ate a lot of sugar. They might have a headache or be a little sleepy those first couple days. In the first couple days, your body is going through a very significant shift in insulin levels to help you start to burn fat instead of always burning carbs. So it's important to hydrate and just, take care of yourself. Take a little nap if you need a nap. Usually after the first few days of adjustment, people start to feel really good. And within the first 10 days, they're like, something is really changing. I don't have pain in my leg anymore, or I feel really alert. I am sleeping much better. So those are all very common experiences. Then that's always just amazing and really fun to see. And people can be a little hungry too. And so we can start to add in some foods in the next phase and do a couple of weeks of herbs for the digestive system. And they're kind of ready to move on for the critter cleanse. And working on the gut diversity is so important. I have a quote here. Most of the neurotransmitters, those are the hormones we make in our nervous system. So serotonin, which is what makes us feel feel happy and content, and dopamine, which gives us like a feeling of like reward and pleasure. Most of these are made in the gut. And so if you haven't already put some things in place and feel like you have a plan for nurturing your gut lining, doing that goes a long way towards establishing wellness. This is a picture of the critter cleanse herbs that I use in the cleanse for the second phase. And this is a visual of leaky gut. I mentioned earlier when I was talking about the foods that the immune system reacts to like a big target. So that sort of food reaction is happening in a lot of people who have a thinner gut lining and poor gut health, because over time, as the gut lining becomes compromised, they're having a lot of food reactions, they're absorbing less of their food, and they're dealing with kind of low-level infections that then lead to autoimmune disorders. So it's very important. I have a whole nother lecture on leaky gut that you can watch on my website if you're interested in this. I have a whole nother lecture on a fat-based diet and ketogenic diet too, if you want to learn a little bit more about those pieces that I'm just briefly touching base on today. But this is one of the things we're working with when we're doing food-based cleansing and doing it right. Then once we're through the digestive and the critter cleanse, we want to focus on the kidneys and the liver. The kidneys are basically filters for the blood. They're filtering the blood 24/7, like, 3 cups worth of blood, every minute. And like any filter, they can get kind of stopped up. So, here's my analogy for before the kidney cleanse and after. You want to do things that just help to improve your filtering capacity of your blood. This helps reduce allergies. This helps with detoxification, helps keep your kidneys healthy in general, helps prevent kidney stones, many, many things, helps with urinary health. So during the kidney cleanse, it's very short. We do special herbs that sort of reboot that organ system and take a special supplement. And then we're ready to move on to the liver cleanse. So all of the groundwork for working on the digestive system and the kidneys is really so we can make a little progress in supporting the liver, which is the largest detoxification organ. And that's where the most of the 3 steps of detoxification that I've been talking about happen. So there's a lot of things that hurt the liver. Any synthetic chemicals that we experience, any highly processed food like polyunsaturated oils, corn oil, soy oil, very damaging to the liver. A low-fat diet's very damaging. And so doing a liver cleanse really can help overcome a legacy maybe of an overwhelmed liver. So you want to do things that support the 3 steps that we talked about. And the liver affects a lot of different things. It's not only detoxifying, which I've spent a lot of time talking about, it also helps with the breakdown and sort of shuttling of nutrients throughout the body to where they need to go. Also helps with the metabolism of hormones and with fat storage and fat breakdown. So when we're doing the liver cleanse, we do some specific herbs that help support the 3 steps of detox. And then we get to the end, the last 2 days of the liver cleanse, we do something called a liver flush. And this, of course, is optional if you did want to read my book or want to join the workshop. But if you're not familiar with it, a liver flush is where you take something to help soften up the bile in the liver. That the bile produced by the liver is where the phase 1 and phase 2 items, the toxins and waste, are moved out. So eating a lot of apples, which are high in malic acid, is really helpful. Drinking teas made of herbs that are bitter, like dandelion and burdock root, are another example of something that really helps drive these detox processes. So you're softening up things in the bile and just promoting the body's natural ability to detox in the liver. And then you take this combination cocktail or drink. It's not really a cocktail. It's not delicious. That's a combination of lemon juice and olive oil. And followed by a day or 2 of not eating any fat. And then when you take the lemon juice and olive oil, you release a lot of bile and toxins into the gut and into the kidneys to eliminate them. And so that's basically what a liver flush is. So some of the common benefits of a liver flush are listed here. And for some people, it is very cathartic. Like they definitely can feel a before and after. Most people that do it for the first time don't necessarily experience that big of a shift. But overall, obviously, the whole process of doing the food-based cleanse is very transformative for people, and people can kind of rattle off all the ways that they feel better and the things they learned. So in summary, an important things to keep in mind when you're undertaking any food-based cleanses would be to have a diet that's really suited to health, right? And I talked about all the different pieces that are important for that, especially paying attention to detoxification, paying attention to metabolic health or blood sugar control, as well as immune system health, trying to reduce negative immune responses. And then we talked about the different steps, the digestive, the parasite cleanse, the kidney cleanse, and the liver cleanse. And then here's a picture of my book again, if you want to check that out. It's at the library, like I said, and at some local retailers and on my website. If you're interested in doing the food-based group, there's a way to apply on my website. It's going to be Tuesdays in October. It'll be all virtual. It's 5 meetings from October to November. All of this info is on my website. If you want to apply for one of the scholarships, the deadline's coming up in a couple weeks. And you can join at a reduced rate if you join by September 25th. So thanks so much for joining me.